This video is to demonstrate construction of the welder's caps inspired by Cary. We're starting with 4 lining sections, 4 outer sections, 2 bill sections, both of them interfaced, one for the lining and the other for the outer piece. First thing we're going to do is we're going to mark on the bill pieces the center of the Michigan filled 1-inch embroidery design that is used for the design. So here's what I have: a paper template. Shannon, I think you already have it, and it's placed on the right side of the bill. I will tell you how to mark for the outer bill so that it's straight and not upside down when it's stitched. And you'll notice that there is a little snip here. There is a snip here, one here, and one here. And you're going to want to make those snips on the bill, and then draw lines between the vertical snips and the horizontal snips. And what you find in the center then is going to be the center of the design and how you're going to line it up on your embroidery hoop that has stabilizer in it. I'm going to be using the 120 by 120. On the lining piece, we're going to flip this over . Remember, Jack wants this so that when he flips the bill of the cap up, that you see the Michigan logo. So we're laying this like this, and you'll see here it says the lining bill. You're going to do the same thing that you do on the outer bill. You're going to snip here and here, here, and over here. And then you're going to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line connecting those snips, and the center is where the center of the embroidery design is going to go. I'm now going to pause. I'm going to embroider both designs, and then I'll come back and we'll stitch the outer edge of the bill pieces, 2 pieces together. When I am going to make these snips, one of the things I'm going to do is use pattern weights to hold the template pieces in place. This is what the outer bill looks like when the lines are drawn, connecting and making the center for the design. This is the lining. It's not quite as clear, frankly, because of the fabric, but you can see here is the vertical line, here is the horizontal line, here is the center, and now I really am going to go and stitch the embroidery designs. The logos have been stitched, and it looks like this is the right orientation for the outer bill, and it looks like this is the right orientation for the lining or inner bill. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch these 2 together, right sides together, right sides together. And we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam around the rounded edge, the outer perimeter of the bill. Make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and the end of this seam. We're going to need to make sure it's reinforced, because when we turn it, there's going to be a lot of stress at the beginning and the end of the seam. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to clip this seam. I like to use my orange Karen K. Buckley's to do this. And remember, we're going to snip and kind of cut out this V shape, because that way when we turn this, these will come together, but we won't have extra bulk. So I'm going to go ahead and finish. This is what the outer edge of the bill looks like when it's clipped. I'm going to finger press it open now. Like this, all the way around. And when I'm done, I'm going to turn it and round out the edges, finger press it again, and steam press it. I think this needs some decorative stitch at the very edge of the bill. So I'm going to use the embroidery thread, and I'm going to use the number 2 stitch, the triple stitch, and stitch probably 1/4 inch away from the edge of the bill. We'll see how it looks. This is what the bill looks like once I did the top stitching. Using stitch number 2, the width was set at 1.0. The length was the default of 4. I like how it looks. I think it just looks a little bit more finished. Let me show you the settings on the machine. Stitch 2, width 1.0, default length of 4.0. The next thing we're going to do is stitch the crown sections together. We're going to stitch 2 crown sections together for the outer, the other 2 crown sections together for the outer, and then we'll stitch those 2 now sections, each consisting of 2 crown sections together. So let me do that, and then we'll see how it looks. We're using the 6mm foot. We're going to stitch 3/8 inch seams on all of the crown sections. So you're going to set your stitch at stitch 1. The width is going to be minus 1.5, and we're going to use a 2.5 inch length. Let me show you that right here. Stitch number 1. It's not very clear. Width is minus 1.5, length is 2.5. And so we're going to stitch now. Make sure that when you're stitching, that you back stitch at the beginning and the end, because again, we're going to be putting some stress on these seams. So we want to make sure that they're going to stay together. So here we go. And we're going to stitch all of the crown sections together like that. I finished stitching the outer crown sections, and now I'm going to do the lining or the inner pieces. These have been chain stitched, so now I'm going to see if I can get them anywhere in focus. It's a little bit better. I'm going to clip these. Then I'm going to finger press the seams open, kind of from the outside, pushing them. The seam allowances will kind of go to one side, and I'm just going to go ahead and finger press them like this. Doing all of them. Now we're going to stitch the 2 separate sections for both the outer bill and the inner bill together. And you may want to pin or clip. But here's the most important piece. This is taking too long. When you get to the top, regardless of the direction in which you finger press these seams, you're going to want to make sure that you can match the seam allowances. To nest the seams, one seam allowance going in one direction, the other going in the opposite direction. Give it a pin right there. You can see that it's right on the seam allowance on this side, right on the seam allowance on that side, and that way when we flip this, we're not going to have a big bulky seam on one side and no seam allowance on the other. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and pin at the bottom, here at the bottom, at the top, and on this, and then just kind of make sure when I stitch that these raw edges are together, again in a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Let me see if I can show you that setting one more time. There, that's a little bit clearer. Stitch 1 with minus 1.5, and the stitch length is 2. I stitched the sections together so we have essentially the outer cap, the inner cap, and I'm just going to finger press these seams again, kind of letting them go in whatever direction they want to go, but I am going to make sure that when I get up here at the top, I'm just going to press them and let's see how it works out. Not going to press these with the iron because we probably are going to be moving the seam allowances in various directions when we stitch these together, because we are going to want them to nest. Ooh, look at that. That looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm going to do all of these and then we'll go on to the next step. The next step is going to be putting it all together, and that probably is going to be tomorrow's video. Or maybe I can splice them and make all of these into one nice video. Let's hope. The next thing we're going to do is pin or clip, if you prefer, the bill to the outer section of the crown. What we're going to do, if I can find my orange scissors, oh, here they are, is I'm folding the bill in half so that the outer edges meet, and I'm going to make a little snip right here at what is the center of the bill. And I'm going to line that up with one of the seams on the crown. And I'm going to clip it in place. Matching the raw edges. And just to make sure, we're going to check it out. Ooh, look at that. And the Michigan logo's even in the right spot. Looking good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the inner crown inside. Whoops, there. Got to make sure that we have the right sides together. And we're going to match seam against seam. And you can see here we've got the seam allowance going in the same direction. So this one, I'm just going to finger press over. I don't care about the rest of this. It'll all be fine, but I don't want to have all of the seam allowance on one side and none on the other. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to match these seams. Ouch. And I'm going to kind of tuck the outer crown inside or the inner crown, the lining inside the outer crown, so that we can match these. We can clip these raw edges together, but one thing we're going to do is we're going to leave about a 4-inch opening because we're going to turn this later. So maybe 4 inches here. Don't include, don't have any seam in this opening because we want to have as little fabric as possible to turn this up. And we're going to do some fusing and then some stitching, but we don't want to have any bulk from a seam allowance. So, you know, it's going to be about 4 inches from here to here. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that. I have this all clipped, and just to make sure that I know where the opening is, instead of using clips, I put 2 pins in to show where I'm going to leave this open. And I didn't measure it, it's plus or minus 4 inches, doesn't make any difference. But we're going to need that space so we can turn this later. Now I'm going to stitch this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the insert off from around the sewing machine so that I can use the free arm to stitch. I'll show you how that works. You can see that the insert is missing and that I'm going to be able to then, I'm going to turn this. I can put my my cap, the edge of the crown, around the free arm. That gives me the opportunity to stitch it more flatly. I'm going to show you though, we're using again a 3/8 inch seam, so we're still using our famous stitch number 1, width minus 1.5 and length 2.5, the default for this. So I'm going to start stitching at my pin, because remember that's either the beginning or the ending of my opening. And remember too, when you're stitching this, that you want to make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and the end of your stitching, because there's going to be a lot of turning, a lot of pressing, a lot of finger pressing, and we want to make sure that that's reinforced. I didn't mention this before, but when we're stitching this 3/8 inch seam, the right edge of the foot, of the 6mm foot, is riding right along the edge of the raw edges. So let's get started. And remember that we turned the seam allowances in opposing directions so that we can nest the seams. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're never going to see them together, but we want to reduce the bulk at the seam, at that point in the seam. I'm going to stitch here until I get up to the beginning of where the bill is attached. Putting my needle down. And when I get there, again, this is going to be another stress point, so I'm going to back it up to reinforce, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way around. I'm coming up to the other side of the bill, so when I get there, I'm going to back up, back stitch to reinforce. I'm coming to the end of this stitching. Again, this is at the pin, which marked either the beginning or the ending of the opening, and now I'm going to back stitch to reinforce that. And we're done with this process. I'm going to take it off the machine, and then we're going to turn it right side out. With this opening, we're going to open it up, and we're going to reach in here and start pulling the cap right side out through that opening. Bill and all. You can see how this is going to go. Now what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to finger press this seam so it's sharp. I'm going to take it to the iron and I'm going to steam it. But what we need to make sure at this opening is that we have it at about a 3/8 inch seam allowance on either side. So we're going to bring these together, and when we steam press it, we're going to finger press it. And when we steam press it, that we're going to press this very sharp, and then we're going to put some fusible web in it. I'm going to pause while I finger press and steam press. You can see that I have this all nice and finger pressed and steam pressed. It looks real good. It looks like it's done, but it's not quite done. What we have to do now is I have this piece that's about 4 inches, whatever, of fusible web. And we're going to tuck it in right here. It has to be going to go in here. I'm going to need to take it to the ironing board because it's fused with heat, and I'm going to press it on this one side, and then I'm going to let it cool a little bit, and I'm going to take the paper off, and then we're going to fuse it to the other side. So let me take this to the ironing board, do the first side, and I'll be right back. I have this fused to one side. I tried to get it close to the edge here. It's probably 1/8 of an inch away, which is probably enough. And hopefully it's cooling enough that now I can tear the paper back off, which is always a challenge. So I'm going to put this on pause while I fiddle with it and see how it works. Don't know if you can see that there's a bit of a glow, a little bit of a gloss there. I just ripped it off and it came off. So now I'm going to go fuse it with some heat. I tried to match the folded edges as much as I could, but you can see that this is, I'll pull it apart just a little bit so you can see that it's fused. It's not stitched, it's fused. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do a line of stitching with the triple stitch right along here, and that's just going to kind of finish everything off. But let me check and make sure I know what the settings are. I still have my machine set so that I can use it with a free arm, which is going to make it easier to do that triple stitch. Hang on a second. The machine is threaded with the same embroidery thread that we used for the logo and for the stitching on the outer edge of the bill. We're going to use the triple stitch, and I'm going to show you the settings here. Stitches number 2, the width is 0.5, the length is the default of 4. And I'm going to stitch I'm going to start just someplace randomly, not on the bill, of course, but somewhere on the lower edge. I'm lining the right edge of the presser foot with the edge of the bill, or the edge of the crown. And I'm going to start stitching. And I'll stitch a little bit, and then I'm going to pause, and then I'll let you know when I get ready to finish. I'm going to pause and finish the stitching. Comment, as much as possible, I like to use the needle down position so that every time I stop, the cap, any part of the cap, any of the components are being held in place while they're being stitched. I'm coming up to where the bill joins the bottom of the crown sections, and there's a lot of fabric there, so you may have to kind of help this move a little bit more smoothly. Oh, that worked pretty well. Okay, on pause again. Coming up to where I started, and I'm going to stitch just a couple of stitches in. This is a triple stitch and it's already reinforced, but I like to just have a little bit of overlap, and I don't think that it is too noticeable when the cap is being worn. There, that's enough. And hang on, I'm going to take it off the machine, and then we're going to have a finished cap. There, I just kind of pushed the crown pieces up a little bit, and you can see that, yeah, that looks pretty good. And it's all done. But he won't get it until Christmas. Now, I have a number of videos that started and stopped, and I hope that I'm going to be able to put them all together into one video. If not, you're going to have to watch successive ones, but I'll do that tomorrow. This is enough for today.